ATV website. Release your positive energy with music.
Good evening. A number of people were injured or arrested as chaos erupted when hundreds of people stormed the electrical building in Tamar at around 9 p.m. Police used pepper spray as they struggled to stop activists opposed to development in the new territories. These scenes are unprecedented in Hong Kong. Hundreds of activists stormed the electrical building this evening to underline their strong opposition to a controversial government plan to build 2 new towns in the northeast New Territories. Police used pepper spray on a number of occasions to stop protesters from forcing their way into the building. But their efforts were in vain. Angry protesters used bamboo sticks as well as umbrellas and metal rulers in an attempt to prise open the doors. They banged on the doors as police officers on the other side tried to stop them from barging in. Police also attempted to prevent other protesters from forcing their way through. An unknown number of people were injured, some by pepper spray and some were seen bleeding. A number of protesters were arrested. The violent protests came as the Finance Committee began the 5th round of debate on whether to release $340 million to fund preliminary work to develop northern Fanling and Kutong. But the meeting was adjourned at about 9:30 p.m. for security reasons. The crowd cheered when radical lawmaker Albert Chan told them that their voices had been heard. Withdraw the bill, chanted the demonstrators, who refused to leave long after the lawmakers' meeting was suspended. Committee Chairman Leung Sing explained why he refused to accept more amendments to the funding proposal before adjourning the session. Said lawmakers had tried to submit a total of 2,000 amendments in a bid to delay the funding approval.
I just tell them there's no limit, but we still have to control because we have to balance, to strike the balance, the time allocated to the members and the efficiency of the committee meeting.
Stopped short of saying whether he will proceed with a vote on the remaining amendments when the committee meets again. A hydrofoil from Hong Kong has crashed into a breakwater as it approached Macau, injuring at least 70 people. Most of the victims were from Hong Kong and none was seriously injured. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
A massive rescue operation began soon after a hydrofoil from Hong Kong crashed into a breakwater in Macau at around 9:30 this morning. At least 70 people were injured and boats rushed them to shore. Many of the victims suffered facial injuries and at least 10 were carried on stretchers to waiting ambulances and taken to hospital. The others were treated for minor injuries at the ferry terminal. This man said the accident happened all of a sudden. He said his nose was injured by the impact and he had to rush to the toilet to try and stop the bleeding. Other passengers on the vessel, the Casillas, said they were kept in the dark about what happened. No announcements were made because the captain was among those injured. This man said there was a loud noise as he was thrown from his seat before the hydrofoil began listing on its right side. The ferry, operated by Shuntak Travel, was carrying 220 passengers and 13 crew members. It left Hong Kong at around 8:30 a.m. and crashed into a breakwater an hour later as it was entering Macau's inner harbor. Most of the injured were Hong Kong residents, but the casualties also included 8 Thais and 4 South Koreans. High tide has been cited as a possible cause of the accident, as the seawall may not have been visible. The crash caused a hole in the front of the vessel. The captain has more than 30 years of experience, and the hydrofoil had undergone its latest annual inspection in July last year. The Macau government said an investigation would be launched into the incident. This is the latest in a string of hydrofoil accidents over the last year. Last month, more than 30 people were injured when a high-speed ferry carrying 162 passengers collided with a mainland cargo ship near the Chengchao ferry pier. And last November, more than 80 people were injured, 2 seriously, when a jet fuel traveling from Hong Kong to Macau collided with an unidentified object off Hailing Chao. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
The prosecution in Rafael Hui's corruption trial has accused the former chief secretary of hiding his connections with the city's biggest property developer. But the defense said serving senior officials have also not disclosed their interests in some cases. ATV's Anne-Marie Sim reports.
Rafael Hui is alleged to have received $34 million in cash and other bribes from the brothers who run Sun Hung Kai Properties, Thomas and Raymond Kwok, and 2 others. The prosecution alleges Hui was paid to be the inside man and eyes and ears of the developer in the government. Today, prosecutor David Perry sifted through all the declaration of interest forms that Hui made while he was chief secretary and a non-official member of former chief executive Donald Tsang's cabinet from 2005 to 2007. The court heard that Hui did not declare millions of dollars in payments and loans he's accused of receiving from the Kwok brothers, even when the government was in talks about the West Kowloon Cultural District, which Sun Hung Kai was interested in. Hui was chairman of the Cultural Project Steering Committee at the time. After testimony from the prosecution witness, EXCO clerk Kinney Wong, that EXCO members were expected to disclose their interests, Thomas Kwok's lawyer argued that Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying did not reveal payments he received from Jones Lang LaSalle, DTZ, and his own surveying firm when publicly declaring his interests as a senior official. Before Leung became chief executive, he had disclosed interests during EXCO meetings where development in Ma 1 was discussed, defence lawyer Claire Montgomery argued. She told the jury that in January 2006, when Leung was an unofficial member of EXCO, he revealed that he had written a complaint letter on behalf of Ma 1 Farm about changes made to roads leading to the farm. The declaration had been prompted by a question about roadworks in Ma 1. Montgomery said this showed that such a declaration was only required when a member had been directly involved in the matter being discussed. The defence also used another senior official as an example, Justice Secretary Rimsky-Yun. Yun does not disclose his interests in the Bank of China on every occasion that the bank is mentioned in EXCO meetings, although as a barrister he had argued in a lawsuit involving the bank, Montgomery told the court. She said Yun would only have to declare if the matter he'd been directly involved in was connected to the matter before EXCO. The prosecution witness said she agreed with Montgomery's assessment.
The Democratic Party is cancelling a meeting with China's most senior official in Hong Kong in protest against Beijing's white paper on the SAR. The document affirming China's full authority over the city has triggered concern, with former Roman Catholic leader Joseph Sen predicting that it will prompt more people to vote in an unofficial referendum next week. Occupy Central leader Benny Tai has vowed to apologize for failing the people of Hong Kong in their fight for true democracy if fewer than 100,000 people vote in the movement's unofficial referendum on universal suffrage next week. But the Hong Kong University law professor received a boost today when the former head of the Hong Kong Catholic Church, Cardinal Joseph Sen, said he expects the turnout to be more than 300,000. Voters in the de facto referendum will choose one of 3 proposals for the 2017 chief executive election. Sen said Beijing's controversial white paper, which asserted China's total authority over Hong Kong, will prompt more people to take part in the referendum. If they want to pressure us and force us to be their slaves, we will resist, declared Sen. The State Council document also pointed out that some people in the city are confused and lopsided in their understanding of the one country, two systems policy, resulting in them having wrong views about political development in Hong Kong. Sen admitted that Occupy Central's action may spin out of control, but he'll take part if it helps bring about real democratic reforms. The movement plans to gather 10,000 people to block streets in the city's business heart if the government fails to roll out an acceptable electoral reform blueprint. The cardinal said taking part in a civil disobedience campaign isn't the same as committing a crime. Sometimes we have to adopt more radical ways to fight for democracy, he declared. The Democratic Party, meanwhile, expressed its outrage with a Chinese document by scrapping talks with Beijing's top representative in the city.
Members of my party are very, very angry and disturbed by the white paper. And because of that, the Central Committee decided that we will suspend the meeting with the director of the Central Government Liaison Office. We want to call on the central government to respect the wishes of the Hong Kong people.
The Democratic Party was scheduled to meet Liaison Office Director Zhang Xiaoming next month to discuss constitutional development. Lau urged people to cast their ballots in next week's unofficial vote and take part in the 1st of July mass rally to push for true universal suffrage. The High Court has dismissed an appeal by radical lawmaker Wong Yuk-man against his conviction for unlawful assembly in 2011. The legislator is now taking his case to the city's highest court. Anne-Marie Sim reports.
Wong Yuk-man's supporters were already at the courthouse this morning when he arrived to hear the result of his appeal. In May last year, a lower court sentenced the radical lawmaker to 6 weeks in jail, suspended for 14 months, after he was convicted on 3 charges, including unlawful assembly and organising and taking part in an unauthorised procession. The charges stem from a protest march involving around 70 people in Central following the July 1st rally in 2011. The sentence was reduced to a $4,800 fine after Wong's first appeal. His lawyer argued today that protesters had volunteered to take part in a march from Wan Chai to Government House. He noted that they had stayed on the pavement and didn't disrupt traffic, so it wasn't necessary to apply for a letter of no objection from the police, a must for any public protest. In rejecting Wong's appeal, High Court Judge Derek Pang said the lawmaker had gathered protesters to join him. Pang rhetorically asked that if 30,000 people walked down Nathan Road peacefully, would the police not need to be informed? Wong's lawyer also argued he was discriminated against because of his political stance. But Pang made it clear that the case was about the protest march and not an individual. The judge said all 5 of the defence's points were not academic or reasonably arguable, so he ruled against the application. Wong plans to take his appeal to Hong Kong's top court.
7 people have been arrested in a crackdown on illegal gambling during the World Cup. Officers also seized betting chips with a nominal value of $20 million. ATV's Winner Wong reports.
As the first whistle was blown in the World Cup in Brazil overnight, the police in Hong Kong stepped up their campaign against illegal gambling. Officers acting on a tip-off arrested 2 men in City Garden in North Point. The suspects are believed to be the heads of an illegal gambling syndicate, and one has a triad background. Officers seized 6 computers along with $18,000 in cash and $8 million in betting slips. In another raid, officers arrested a suspected triad member in Kowloon City. The police confiscated tablet computers, mobile phones, and betting slips with a nominal value of $3 million. The police also swooped on a number of premises in the New Territories, arresting 4 people and seizing betting slips worth $12 million and $100,000 in cash. The overnight crackdown came less than a week after police smashed a huge cross-border gambling ring, arresting 26 people and seizing more than $370 million in betting records ahead of the World Cup finals. The police said the syndicate had been set to handle more than $500 million worth of betting transactions every day during the mega sporting event. Winner Wong, ATV News.
Tokyo has accused Beijing of lying when it said Japanese fighter jets flew close to a Chinese reconnaissance plane on Wednesday. In an unusual move, the Defense Ministry in Beijing released a video which it says shows 2 Japanese planes flying as close as 13 meters to a Chinese aircraft over the East China Sea. But Tokyo dismissed the claim, saying the planes in the video were different from the ones Beijing said were following its aircraft. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga also demanded that Beijing remove the online video. Iraq's most senior Shiite cleric has urged people to take up arms to stop a rapid advance by Islamist militants. The U.S. has not ruled out military strikes after the extremists killed hundreds of people as they seized a number of towns. Arthur Urquiola reports.
This video posted on the internet purports to show Iraqi soldiers streaming out of an army base near the city of Tikrit after it was seized by Islamist militants earlier